One. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Butterflies symbolize change, hope, and transformation. They also represent pure joy. Through all his musical journeys, Felix Cavaliere has never lost that same delight. It wasn't the structure, precise sounds his piano teacher taught him so long ago. For Cavaliere, one of the founders of Grammy-winning and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, the Rascals, he can still recall the moment he heard rock and roll for the first time. His work has never been bolder, as it is now on this new album, Then and Now. Then and Now landed on Friday, September 15th. The 10-track album comes just over a year after Cavaliere penned Memoir of a Rascal. The Now songs reflect past influences with #1 songs like Good Lovin', Groovin', Beautiful Morning, I've Been Lonely Too Long, People Gotta Be Free, and How I Came to Be Sure. The Rascals are considered the best blue-eyed soul group to come out of the 1960s. Then and Now is Cavaliere's first solo album since 1993's Dream in Motion. Please welcome singer, songwriter, musician, composer, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer with the legendary Young Rascals, Felix Cavaliere, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Felix.
Hey, man, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. This is the last time we talked, I think it was in 2018.
Wow,
It's been a little while,
that's a while.
but you're looking great. You don't
Hey, man,
change.
we made it. We made it through. We made it through those wonderful years here. But yeah, I didn't realize it was that long ago. That was a while ago. Yeah.
It has been a while. You know, I had on the show since then. It's been about 6 months since I had him on the show, Joey D.
Oh, yes. Good
He's a
old
great
friend.
guy,
Yes,
man. He
absolutely.
really is.
Good.
And of course, he lives in Florida. And
Yeah, he's been down there a long time. He's been down in that area for quite a while. So good. I hope he said hello to all of us. Say hello to him if he's watching.
I did. He's very dapper, you know. He did the way he dresses. He looks great.
Well, that's a different that's a different generation. That was just before us in the 60s and 50s and 60s. And everybody was kind of like well, they were kind of dude up, as you say, in those days.
I heard you talking about the infamous club back then in New York, the Peppermint Lounge, and how everybody did dress back in the days, and very classy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different world, and it's a different world now. And as a matter of fact, they just passed a law in the Senate where you don't have to wear a suit to the Senate anymore. And
Really? Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
well, there's a senator from Pennsylvania. He wants to wear a hoodie,
I didn't
and
know
so they
that.
changed the law.
Could you imagine that? Those guys wearing hoodies.
Well, we're on. Gravity doesn't go up; it goes down.
It does, doesn't it? Then and Now, man, is a great album.
Well,
I
thank
love
you,
it. I
thank you.
really, really like it. And let me tell you, man, your voice sounds as good as ever. I don't know how you do
Uh,
it.
well, it's all those vowels at the end of our names. You know what I mean? That's what does it.
How do you keep your voice in that good of a shape? Obviously, I'm going to assume you don't smoke. Is that true?
No, you can't smoke.
You
You
can't,
can't
right?
smoke. No, you can't smoke. You can't really drink. It's like anything else. I mean, you got to just keep your body and your your brain and everything in shape.
I talked to Dionne Warwick, and I said,
Oh yeah. Oh
I
boy.
said, man, you still got a great voice. You must not smoke. She says, man, I've been smoking since I was a teen, and I haven't stopped.
Yeah, she's an exception to the rule because I used to smoke in those days, and what I noticed is that my voice got higher when I stopped.
Mm-hmm. It got higher, really.
Yeah. Well, a trick we used to have in the old days, like you're in the studio and you have to make you got to do like a low part, like a bass part.
Right, right.
If you smoke a cigar, your voice goes way down there when you smoke a cigar. So the opposite, you don't really want that unless you're singing a bass part. So yeah,
Yeah.
it does help your voice.
When I was in radio back in the late '70s. I was a top 40 DJ.
Uh-huh.
Everybody smoked. They always thought it helped their voice when you're on the air.
Well, you
So
you guys, in the old days had some really nice voices, man, speaking voices.
yeah. Don't you miss those days though? The great top 40 DJs back in the 60s and 70s, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, cousin Brucey, still a dear friend. They just
Hmm.
celebrated, God, I don't know, it's over 60, 70 years he's
Wow.
still on the radio.
Yeah.
And we had people that, we lost a lot of them, Murray the
Hmm.
K and your Dick
That's right.
Biondi. But I mean, these people are really responsible for us being here.
They are,
Yeah.
and they could go off the playlist a little bit. They could, do their
Yes,
thing, you
absolutely.
know,
Of course, those
and
days are over. Yeah.
those days are way over, man. It's
Yeah.
all owned by corporate and lawyers and
That's the
how you
way it
want
is.
to
I
get
just
into
had this conversation, but that's the way it is. What are you going to do? That's what it's about.
Yep,
It really changed right after Woodstock. Woodstock was the turning point.
it
You know,
was.
but, yeah, because people, the corporations realized there's the humongous baby boomer audience.
Hmm.
Let's get them, and
Yeah,
they did.
exactly.
They took over.
You got album rock. It was very hard to make that transition from top 40 to album. Not many bands could do that, and only a few. You guys kind of did it. Tommy James did it a little bit, you know, Crimson and Clover when that came out, that hit the album charts, things like that. But not too many people could do it,
Well,
from top 40.
there's a lot of reasons for that, but when you first start, your goal is to be on AM radio because
Right.
that's what was there.
Yep.
And then when FM radio came on, they looked back at AM like, whoa, look at that. I mean, like it's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 minutes. Try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just try it. Once you can pass
Exactly.
that test. I mean, and so basically to get to the FM, you gotta convince your audience that, you belong there.
Hmm.
And you also got to convince the people, the powers that be, that you belong there. And that's nonsense. I mean, the people want to hear music; they want to hear music.
Right. Top 40 was so great though. The mix. I mean, I remember Frank Sinatra, Motown, the Rascals, the Beatles. Everybody was on there,
Well,
you
that's a
know.
long time ago, man. See, that's
Yeah.
that's that's uh that's a long time ago. See, it's all demographics now. It's the way it is. They have audiences that they want to cater to for their commercials. That's how it is. It's no sense complaining about it. I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I know it. I complain about it because I went to broadcasting school, owned by CBS. I was the
Ah,
top 40 DJ back in the late 70s. So I have to complain about it.
well, there's a lot more to it that than that. Just the terrestrial stations now that you've
Yeah,
got the streamers, you know,
right.
and it's kind of like I studied with a guru for many years, and he used to talk about is something good or bad, and he would say like, well, like take electricity for example. Is it good?
Right.
Well, if you plug your phone, I mean your light into it, it's good. If you plug your finger to it, it's not so good. So it's the same with the streaming. I mean, I'm able to really listen to world music right on my phone,
Yeah,
you know.
that's true.
And I lost a huge record collection due
Hmm.
to a fire in Tennessee. And
Oh man, I'm
yeah,
sorry about that.
so I mean,
Yeah,
but it's right on the streamers.
yeah,
Almost everything that I ever had is on the streamers. I mean, if not, then I forgot what it was.
right.
So I appreciate that a lot. That I was able to
Oh,
recapture a
good,
lot of those
good, good.
memories.
If you look behind me, there's a jukebox, and it's got all 45s in there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
Yep,
how this album came about. This Then and Now album was
exactly.
about putting 5 old songs that influenced me and re-recording them, which
Right,
was a blast, and then
right.
writing 5 new songs. And man, it was just really fun because there's nothing like a good song. If you have a good song, it can be done by anybody, you know,
Exactly.
and that's what this is all about.
Well, you start out with Slip Away, which is a Clarence Carter tune. You do a great job with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was
Um,
a
the,
fun song to sing.
oh yeah, you're great at that. I mean, R&B, you can do any R&B song, man, and make it great, you know?
Well, almost, but yes, thank you. I mean, there's a couple of people, you notice I didn't try Sam and Dave. You know what I mean? You know, some of these people are just too much. Even Jackie Wilson, man. I mean, I had to
Yeah.
say like, and Benny King.
Benny King, yeah.
These people, you see the difference between then and now. I hate to put a plug in, but
Right.
is then, as you well know, as a broadcaster, you either had a voice or you went home.
Right.
Now we've got what's called auto tune,
Yeah, I
and
know.
we can make anyone sound good and
Yeah.
fix syllables.
Yep.
But that's one thing I miss about broadcasting on TV. The voices, they're just not good voices.
They're not good voices at all.
And you listen, you close your eyes, you go like, "Ooh, I don't like that voice."
Exactly.
Well,
You
you
know
went to
how
school.
you know how great you are. I saw you on a couple of programs where you just bring out your keyboard and start singing. You don't even need a band. That's how good you are.
Well,
You
thank you.
know,
But
I mean, I would go watch you with a keyboard, and that's it. I'd be fine with that, man, because you got such a powerful voice. You really
well,
do.
it's also like something that like really is part of my youth, my life. You sit down in your home playing a piano in those days,
Right.
no synthesizer, and you just sing and oh man, how about if I try that song, and you sing it, and if you enjoy it, people see you enjoying it, and they hear you enjoying it, and they enjoy it.
Yeah. You're so talented, though, man.
Well,
You
thank
really
you, my
are.
friend. I appreciate that.
Along the way, did you write that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, yeah. Again, we have certain software. Uh,
Right.
this particular one is called Reason. I don't know if you've ever heard of Reason. It's kind of a European what they call DAW, which is how you make your music on a computer. There's
Hmm.
a whole bunch of what they call loops on there. Loops are
Yeah.
like usually drum figures.
Right.
Well, I heard this one figure. I said, man, that's pretty cool, man. And you play it, and then it inspires you to write. So that's one of the
Hmm.
things I like about the new technology.
I think that's one of my favorite songs on the album.
Well,
Along the
cool.
way,
Yeah, it's
I
a
love
good
it.
song. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
joyous.
Yeah. Great tune. Now I know you're Italian. Are you 100%?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
you got to have some Latin blood in you, man. I'm telling you. I'm half Cuban. I've got Italian blood too, but I'm half
Cubano,
Cuban.
Cubano, see,
Cubano.
see.
But Summer in El Barrio. Oh my God. You nailed
Uh,
that one.
well, growing up, near New York and in New York,
Yeah.
muchos Latinos. I mean,
Yeah,
if you don't,
definitely.
if you don't know somebody, if you never looked at a Puerto Rican girl, then there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? Because so the music there, as a matter of fact, I got to really know a lot of the music community in New York, and also when I started playing professionally was in the Catskill Mountains.
Oh, really?
And
Oh,
there was always a Latin group there. Now I'm going way back. I'm talking
yep.
to La Playa Sextet.
Right.
I'm talking about Tito Puente, people like that.
Sure.
Certainly Carlos Santana brought a lot of that to light.
Yep.
So I've been around that music my whole life. Matter of fact, Good Lovin' was inspired a lot by that because of the rhythm that was chosen that was played behind that. It's kind of Latin to a degree, and then of course
Yeah.
grooving, with
Yep.
the conga only. So yeah, so I had this fellow join my band. Uh, his name is Benny Harris,
Hmm.
and he plays keyboards, and he's half Puerto Rican. And man, I said, I got to put you to work, bro, because he did that up.
Great song, man.
He did that up,
Yeah.
and he's I gotta give him credit because he really did a great job.
Speaking of Puerto Ricans, guess who I ran into recently? And I got to interview him. I was supposed to go visit him in Orlando, but I got sick. I actually got COVID.
Uh-oh.
Tony Orlando.
I was going to say Tony. Yeah, Tony.
And
I've known
you
him
were on his show, weren't you? You were on
Oh,
his
I've known
show.
him
Yeah.
100 years. Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
guy, huh?
well, he's a good guy. He's a survivor, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a good guy. He's on the radio also.
Right.
He's on WABC New York, and
Yep.
it's nice. Like you had Joey D, and like basically you got Tony, and you got
Hmm.
Frankie Valli, and you got
Right.
Dion. For those of us that are still around, we try to keep in touch.
I had Dion on the show too. Another good guy.
Great,
Yeah.
great man.
Love all those guys, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't realize this. A lot of music started with doo-wop, even R&B. you know. Doo-wop kind of started a lot of that.
Well, yeah, they, when Alan Freed first brought what we know as rock and roll to New York, most
Hmm.
of it were doo-wop groups with a beat,
Yeah.
and Dion was one of those Penguins, the Clovers, the Drifters, the
Yep.
Spaniels. Uh, they took great songs and kind of like rock and rolled them up a little bit, but they
Hmm.
started off with phenomenal voices,
Yeah.
phenomenal voices.
Some of the other songs on the album I want to mention, Spanish Harlem did a great job with that from Benny
Yeah.
King's uh, tune from way back, I guess 1960 or somewhere around
Well,
there.
Benny King, I mean, if people don't know who Benny King was,
Yeah,
you should Google this man because one of the finest voices I've ever heard.
I agree. I agree 100%, man. Then you do a Ray Charles tune, Marianne.
Right.
Is that you playing piano?
No, that one we had somebody come in and help out
Oh,
on that
okay.
because my co-producer there, Mike, said, "Come on, let me bring somebody in here because I don't know, like as I say, COVID. I don't know if your hands are working." Well, my hands were working, but I said, "All right, go do it." My hands are fine, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Road Trip, you wrote that one, right?
I wrote it with Steve Wariner, who's a
Okay.
country artist.
That's
You
a
know,
great tune. I love it.
I'm glad you like it. Steve is a Kentucky.
Hmm.
Uh, he's like a Chet Atkins protege, a
Right.
very talented man. He writes for Garth Brooks and he writes for many of the artists in the country world. It's so interesting when you merge a country artist with a so-called R&B artist,
Exactly.
because what I would really like to hear is him do that song. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because it would be completely different,
Hmm.
but he's a great guy, man. He's so talented. Yeah.
I actually, at first, I thought Road Trip was a classic. So I was looking for the history of Road Trip. I said, this has got to be done maybe in the late 50s, 60s, something like that. And then I said, wait a minute, maybe Felix wrote this.
Yeah, we wrote. Well, that was the idea, was to take the old song,
Yeah.
show the influence, write a new song, and for the most part, like there is a thread,
Hmm.
but the reason I'm in Nashville is seriously is because of the songwriting
The
community.
player and the
It is
players.
very,
Yeah.
very, very, very alive and well down here.
Right.
And I mean, most of the time when people write songs, nobody ever hears them,
Hmm.
because it's just one of those businesses where there's so much output. It's kind of
Hmm.
the same like in the film industry
Right.
when those guys are not on strike and they're
Yeah.
writing, uh, they write so many screenplays that you never hear about. Well, so
That's
anyway,
true.
so most of the people who write songs, they write a lot of songs,
Hmm.
and it's got to be because they love doing it, because not everybody makes money writing songs.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. I write books. I'm not making a lot of money from these books
Well,
I write.
because there's so many books out there.
There's
I did a
a lot of
book a couple of.
competition. Yeah.
So, what was your book? Was it about the business or past tense or?
First book, Check the G's, is about me growing up in the family business in DC. And
Gotcha.
my family was in retail electronics since the late 50s. So, I saw the changes in electronics from reel to reel cassette, 8-track, disc.
Wow,
We went
there you
through all the
go.
changes. And then the Rockstar Chronicles are the interviews. I got maybe 45 interviews
Oh, okay.
with a lot of the rock legends. A lot of them have passed away now. And I'm going to do series 2 and 3. I hope to have you in the next series.
Absolutely. That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense, because
Hmm.
interesting that you say a lot of the electronic changes. Like one of the things about this album
Hmm.
is that there are managers, well, people are buying vinyl.
They are.
And I was kind of surprised by that because,
Yeah,
but then I figured it out. They want to actually have something that they own.
exactly.
I really believe that. First of all, they get a chance to see it
Yep.
and hold it, put
Yep.
it in their collection, whereas opposed to like streaming right through,
Yeah.
zeros and ones just went through my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really think that's got something to do with it. Yeah, some people really like the sound, but
Right.
we can make a digital sound like that. And we have so many plugins today we can do. But anyway, it
Mm-hmm.
took me almost a year and a half to get the vinyl pressed.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
There's
And the
such a demand.
vinyl's in color now too. You can get red,
Yeah, I
yellow.
know. I know.
Yeah,
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
it is pretty cool,
In the old days, that was for like blue comedy albums.
Yeah, right. Or Red Fox album, it was
Yes.
XXX.
Yes. That's what I mean by blue. Yeah.
Yeah, blue, right. Yeah. Searching for My Love. That was with Bobby Moore and the Rhythm
Yeah.
Aces. I remember that. Get On Home. You wrote that one.
I wrote it with Steve. Yeah, Steve.
Because there's a touch
yeah.
of country in that, isn't there?
Oh, it is a lot of country in that, man. Yeah, but again, like it's just really interesting if he ever puts that on an album, man. To hear his version and my version, it's just really it's kind of like the difference. Like when people say, "Well, you live in Nashville," well, you don't sound like it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't help it, man. That's it's the same thing when we sing. You're not really trying to sound R&B. You're just doing your thing,
right.
whatever that may be.
Yeah, but there's a lot of R&B that sound country.
Well, yeah, because down south here is where all this stuff comes from, man. It's really interesting. Memphis and Nashville, and then of course Georgia with Macon, and like now Atlanta, of course. It's all changed now because now we've got like hip hop worlds, and but it used to be this was the hotbed of all of that.
Look at Lionel Richie with Kenny Rogers. I mean, that relationship is pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, well, he's one of my favorites. Lionel is just a talented man.
I used to love that relationship between him and Kenny. They were great together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did the Jackie Wilson song. You do a great job on that. I think that's again one of my favorite tunes on the album. Your Love Keeps Lifting You Higher.
I really didn't want to follow Jackie Wilson, so I slowed it down. Yeah.
Did a wonderful job on that, by the way.
You.
Great job. And then you wrote the big single, right? Soul of Love?
Yeah, so, two guys from Canada came down and wanted to write with me, and that's what came out. But the interesting thing about that is I've got a studio, like you're looking at it here, like and they came down with a little laptop, and I said, well, come on, let's plug in. They said, no, we don't need. We just want to use our laptop. I said, what? He said, so we wrote that almost the whole right on the laptop. I said, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's today's technology, man. It's thank you.
Amazing,
yeah, I like.
It's hard to get. You get used to it, but then it's hard to get used to. If you're used to recording in a big recording studio, you kind of miss that, I guess.
Well, of course. Yeah. I mean, like I say, you can't really compare, with the $1 million studios that they have. There's something to be said about, the acoustics and, I've got dogs barking, I've got cars going by, we shut that out in the big studios.
Sometimes it's okay to leave that in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I went on your website. You got a contest going on, right?
Yes.
For the new album. You can win a signed keyboard and a signed copy of the album just by, I guess, entering the contest on your website. Is that right?
That's right. It's very difficult for people to even know you have a product out.
Right.
I mean, there's so much product out there. So, my manager likes to do something a little different, something is a little like enticing. Come on, check this out, and we'll offer you something in return. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. What kind of keyboard is it?
I'm not even sure what the keyboard is. All I know is that I got to get there and sign it real quick.
Yeah. Better be careful. It might be yours.
Exactly.
You might see him carting it away one day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Felix, sign this, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
I want to mention once again, Joey D. We had a long conversation. It's so cool. He had Jimi Hendrix in the band originally. He had Joe Pesci playing guitar. He had you and a bunch of other guys from the Rascals later on. I guess, did you tour with them? Did you tour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, basically, how it all happened, if you have a moment, is I was
Sure.
working in the Catskills and with my
Right.
college band, and Joey came through with his Peppermint Lounge people uh, on a weekend because they were the headliners.
Right.
And then at the end of the summer, when I was supposed to go back to school, their organ player quit on me. So I got a phone call to join them in Europe
Hmm.
because they needed somebody really quickly, and I was an
Right.
organ player. Well, I asked my father. I said, what do you think? I was a pre-med student at that time at
That's right.
Syracuse, and he said, "Yeah, go ahead. I mean, why not? You got an opportunity. Yeah, give it a shot." I went over there, and how it shows you how things happen. The group that opened up for Joey
Mm-hmm.
were the Beatles.
Oh, jeez.
So I saw these four guys,
Mm-hmm.
long hair,
Yeah.
audience screaming, hollering at the top of their. I said, what's this all about? And that's the Beatles. Well, within 6 months, 8 months from then, the whole world knew who they were because they were on Ed
Yeah.
Sullivan, But that's kind of what made me decide to give this a try. I said, I think I could do that.
Hmm.
First of all, I think it looks like a lot of fun.
Right.
So,
The Beatles could have used a keyboard player back then. I
well,
mean,
they had a pretty good one in the later years. They got Billy Preston. So, yeah,
yeah, later on. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. That's a good story.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
true story, man. And like I say, you just that's one of the reasons I wrote that book is because, you never know
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen until you let it happen.
That's right. You mentioned How Can I Be Sure would have
Right.
never happened if it wasn't for the Beatles. And
Yeah.
I never thought about that before. I hear it. It's kind of whimsical, kind of sounds like something that McCartney would have wrote, McCartney
Well,
and Lennon.
as a broadcaster, basically getting on the radio, even in
Mm-hmm.
those days,
Right.
was very, very, very selective.
Yep.
However, the radio people had to play the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they came out with Michelle, that opened the door for all of us that wanted to do something different.
Exactly. Yeah.
See, it wasn't like a copy. It was like, okay, now that door is open. They blew the doors open for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the debt we owe those guys, man, because you had to play them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Otherwise, the stations would say, well, we don't play stuff like that. I mean, you know what? Number one record, but
Right.
still. So that door was open for us to go in. And how can I be sure ready to go?
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to by that.
Beautiful song, by the way. I
Well,
love it.
thank you.
Yeah, man. You get some upcoming shows coming. Get Greensburg, Pennsylvania. That's
Yeah.
October 6th. I think you're going to be in
Right.
Massachusetts, North Truro, and
Yep.
a big one that you do a lot that I want to go to. I'm trying to convince my wife, which is the best cruise out there, is the Flower Power Cruise. That is the best music cruise out there. It really is.
Well,
And that's next year. Yep.
I'll give you a little bit of advice. If
Okay.
you want to go on a Flower Power cruise, you better get your ticket a year in advance
I
because those
know.
things are sold out, man.
I know.
And like if I can help you and your wife get on one of them, I will certainly do that. But those things, they're like winners, man. I mean,
Yeah.
not only for us, but for the people who go, they have a ball.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be a ball for you to just,
It is.
mingle
It
with all
is.
your old buddies,
Well, that's true too, and
Yeah.
like we get to see like people like Tommy James and of course
Mm-hmm.
Zombies and Guess Who's on there sometimes and Family Stone. It's one of the only places we can all kind of see one another because we don't really have those big reviews like we used to have in the old days
Right.
where everybody's on one stage.
Yeah. Or touring together like you used
That's
to.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to mention some of the people that are going to be there. And I probably interviewed just about everybody
There you
that's
go.
going to be there. First of all, the Rascals, Tommy James and the Shondells, which I've interviewed. John Kay and Steppenwolf, I've interviewed. I've interviewed Randy Bachman, Bachman Turned Overdrive. John Lodge, I've had on many a times. The Four Tops, Gary Puckett, great guy. Danny, I always have a hard time pronouncing his name, from Chicago. Seraphin.
Oh,
All right.
Danny
The drummer.
Yeah,
The drummer of Chicago.
Yeah.
He's going to be there. You mentioned the Family Stone. Gary Lewis of the Playboys, which I've had on not that long ago. The Grassroots, the Buckinghams, of course, the Loving Spoonful, the Yardbirds. I got Jim McCarty coming on the show next.
Great.
The Box Tops, the Cal Sills of Vogues. I mean, come on, man. Peter Asher, which I know. Peter's a great guy. 1910 Fruit Gum. I mean, there's nothing better than this cruise. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's all day, it really, and almost all night. It just goes on and on, and the people, they really, really enjoy it. You can see that they really, how should I put it, reminisce so wonderfully about their youth.
I call it the Woodstock on the high seas.
The floating Woodstock.
The floating Woodstock, yeah.
And in many ways, it is floating. Let me tell you.
For some reason, I missed this song being covered by somebody who made it a huge hit. You Better Run. It's like, how could I miss that? Pat Benatar. I forgot that was a Rascals tune.
Well, that was a long time ago. Well, because she did it so well and unique.
Right.
Yes, you Better Run was an interesting song for us because it kind of followed a number one record, Good Lovin', and it's tough to follow a number one record, especially when you're just starting. So, but a lot of people like that, and of course, Pat really did it up, man. She just recently got into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and, she deserves every moment.
You were on Atlantic Records, which I didn't realize at one time it was a primarily Black record label at first. I didn't know that.
Well, if you don't know, you should probably look. They have a collection of their past repertoire hits.
Right.
It's unbelievable what was on that label. It's unbelievable, the jazz and the R&B and the soul that was on the Red and Black label. They had another label called Atco. Which is basically where they put Bobby Darin, and they had Sonny and Cher on there. But let me tell you, I think so, yeah. But I mean, the Atlantic Records was 3/4 of my music collection when I was young.
And you guys were, I think, the first white artist on Atlantic.
Yeah, they chose to put us on that Red and Black, which was really cool because, as I say, I mean, I was in awe of those. I mean, it was such a great group of people making music at that label.
The record company was founded, I think it was 1947. Ahmed Erdogan, Herb Abramson, and of course Jerry Wexler, right, was the head.
Yeah, and Ahmed and his brother Neshui was there,
right.
And Neshui was the jazz man, and they signed Ray Charles. I mean, who else did they have? They had everybody. Hubert Laws. They had in their affiliates Otis Redding. And then when they branched out to rock, which was us, then later they had the Rolling Stones and Phil Collins, and they're still very powerful in the industry.
Jerry Wexler's he's buried here in Sarasota.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think at the end of his life, he was living here. He was living in Sarasota.
Probably. A lot of them moved to Florida. He was a really interesting man. He kind of like argued with me all the time.
Those are the pioneers, of music.
Well, really, they really deserve every accolade they got.
Was Sid Bernstein, was he a manager of the Rascals at one time?
He was our manager, yes. He was a manager. He also brought the Beatles to America the first 2 times.
He did.
Very, very, very interesting man, yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that the original name of the Rascals was them, right?
Well, we tried different names, we couldn't find a name. Everybody had that name. That was an English band, and so we ran into Soupy Sales. I don't know if people know who Soupy Sales.
I love Soupy. Are you kidding me?
And so
I'm older than I look.
you are, huh?
Yeah.
I thought you were a young kid back then,
Yeah, I'm
man.
65, man.
Oh, all of that. My God. My leg is 65. Yeah. But Soupy gave us that name. And the reason he did is because he said, you know what, I'd like to call you, we couldn't print.
Soupy was great, man.
Oh,
I
man,
used to love
let me tell you.
Soupy and Jimmy Dean. Remember, Jimmy Dean was
Yeah,
also a
you
big
know,
guy.
just good people, man. And,
Yeah.
like a really solid dude.
I love that you guys wrote "People Got to Be Free."
Right.
Um, it was a song, months after Martin Luther King got killed, Robert Kennedy got killed. I remember those days like it was yesterday. It was
Yeah.
1968, and
Yeah.
my dad was in D.C. He had to clear out his windows because of the riots
Wow. Yeah,
downtown.
sure.
It was horrible, man. We had the military in D.C. We had tanks on the street. It was a bad time, man. It was a very scary year. Very, very scary year.
Well, we've been through a few of them, and the good old country survives, doesn't it?
It does. We
Yeah.
pulled together, you know.
That's what we need to do right now.
We do, man. But COVID really got us sidetracked, didn't it?
COVID and all the dissension and all the really vitriol that's going on. Come on, man.
I
We got
know.
things we have to take care of, man. We got grandkids we got to protect.
Exactly. You're right. I got 5 grandkids too, by the way.
Amen.
I love them.
Yeah.
Love them, love them, love them. I just want to mention I had a few R&B legends on my show not long ago. Let's see if you know these guys. William Bell.
Yep.
I mean, this guy wrote "Born Under a Bad Sign." I mean, that's a legendary tune. And of course, William Bell was Stax record,
Yep.
and he was a very good friend with Otis Redding. Him and Otis
Yeah.
were very, very good friends. And do you remember Charles Wright?
Yes. Yes. I remember that name. Yes.
Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band. He did the song "Express Yourself." Remember that song?
I remember the song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Express
But
yourself.
yeah, there you go. But he talked about growing up in doo-wop as well. He got started on
Sure.
doo-wop and made that
Sure.
transaction R&B. So yeah, man, I love to have the R&B guys on the
Well,
show
we
as
knew
well.
Otis was part of the Atlantic family, being on Stax, and really good guy, funny guy, really funny.
Yeah. What that was sad though. I hate to see when these guys, especially Otis said he puts out Dock of the Bay, and that was his last tune, and he didn't see the success of that song, he didn't get to see it.
Strange plane accident.
Yeah, very, very strange. Felix, here's your last question. And I ask everybody this question. I get some very interesting answers. And
Oh boy.
I probably asked you this before in 2018. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Wow. Well, that's part of what's on my album, Benny King and Ray
Exactly.
Charles. Oh, I really love to do something with Ray Charles, man. I mean, like
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting him, but I mean, he made such an impact on my musical life. I was on a TV program where I was able to kind of, you know, at least be in his presence, but I would have loved to have done something with him.
You guys would have meshed very well together. You
I
know
would have
that?
loved that, man. That would have been really something else.
Felix, thank you so much, man, for being on the show today. It's always a pleasure. He's such a great guy, you know.
Well,
You're,
Ray, man,
you're
pleasure meeting you, my friend.
you
And
look
that's
great. And I really mean that. Sincerity, man. You look like you're 40 years old.
Yeah, well, good things happen to good people, man. And God
There
bless
you
you. Look
go.
well, and I hope I see you again before. What was it? 5 years before
5 years,
5 years
yeah.
go by.
Yeah, it's been a while. It goes by
God
quick,
bless,
doesn't it?
man. Thank you
Goes
so
by
much for
quick.
your time. I appreciate it. And then, as I say, hope to see you again.
Yeah, man. I just want to say real quick, very special thanks to Jody Best of Best Bet Promotions for arranging this interview with Felix. You can buy the new album from the King of Blue-Eyed Soul, Felix Cavaliere, and you can purchase the album. Right now, you can pre-order it, correct?
Well, FelixCavalieremusic.com will take care of you.
Exactly. There you go. Go right to the website. You're also on Facebook, I believe. You're on, also, let me mention real quick, purchase your memoir, Felix Cavaliere's Memoir of a Rascal, your autobiography, which is available at Amazon.com as well.
Yes, sir.
All right, Felix. God bless you, man.
Hey, man, same to you. Take care. If you get to Nashville, give me a call.
I'd love to come, man.
All right, brother.
All right, brother.
See ya.
Take care. Bye-bye.